Hello friends, today we're going to be talking about how to become a short-term rental property manager. So how do you become a short-term rental property manager? Stay tuned as I uncover the comprehensive pathway of becoming a short-term rental property manager. I'll even give you the specific operations that you need to put in place in order to become a short-term rental property manager. So what does it really take to stand out in this competitive industry of short-term rental property management? How is it that savvy managers can handle the complexities of having multiple properties, while at the same time ensuring their guest satisfaction every single time? Well, stick with me as I reveal insider tips and strategies that successful short-term rental property managers use to stay ahead of the game. I'm first going to dive into exactly what short-term rental property managers do. Next, I'm going to talk about what sets a short-term rental property manager that is good from one that is great. And finally, I'll break down the specific operations that you're going to need as a short-term rental property manager to launch your own business. If you're ready, let's go. So what do short-term rental property managers even do? To understand this, I first believe we need to understand what the property management world looks like when it comes to short-term rentals. And really, there's two different types of property management companies out there. There's ones that we call full service and ones we call half service. So let's break those down. What does a full service property management company do? Well, in essence, they do everything. From the bookings, to the cleanings, to the guest experience, to the guest communication, to the maintenance, they handle it all. The whole goal of a full service property management company is to do everything so the owner doesn't have to do anything. The whole goal is to save them time. However, one thing I've noticed with full service property management companies in the short-term world is that they can be spendy. I've seen them average anywhere between 10% all the way up to 40%. And people might ask, what is the difference between that property management company that only charges 10% versus the one that charges all the way up to 40%? And I've actually experienced both. And what I've seen, it comes down to ease of getting to properties. For example, we have a property in Florida that we only pay a 10% management fee to, which is unbelievable when it comes to what they do and what we receive for how much we pay. Now, one of the reasons for that is we're in an area close to Disney where there's a lot of homes, a lot of short-term rentals fairly close together. So they can knock off a whole bunch of different properties in a row and don't have to travel multiple miles, spend a lot of money on gas, or pay a lot of different people to travel out to these places because the homes are fairly close together. However, the property we have in Blue Ridge, Georgia, many of these short-term rentals are quite a distance from each other. So as a property management company, they're gonna have to travel maybe to Morganton, to Blairsville, or other places that are pretty far from each other. So they're spending a lot of money on gas, time, maintenance, and other people that they're hiring in order to help maintain these properties. So their costs are quite a bit more. The next one is what we call a half-service property management company, and these are organizations and companies like Evolve or Vacasa. And what does half-service mean? Well, just like the name indicates, they do about half of the things that a full-service property management company does. For example, they usually get the bookings, but a lot of times you as the homeowner are going to have to do a lot of things as well. Now, organizations like this, they have contacts that you can reach out to when it comes to cleaning or maintenance, but you are the one who's going to be communicating with the cleaners, with the maintenance people. They do handle the guest communication between them and the guests on their stays and checkout, check-in, all that stuff. But for the most part, you're going to be heavily involved as a homeowner using a half-service management company. And I've actually used one of these companies before. When we first bought our property in Blue Ridge, Georgia, it wasn't a vacation rental. We had to do all the things and take all the steps to turn it into a short-term rental property. However, when I started looking at prices, most of the organizations that I saw in Blue Ridge, Georgia that do the property management for short-term rentals were anywhere between 35 to 40%. And I was thinking I did not want to pay that much money to do that. So I looked into other options, and Evolve ended up being a great option for us. And I actually really liked some of the things they offered. They had a really cool interactive back-end portal where I could check in and see when the guests were coming. I could see the financial reports on how much money was being spent and how much money was coming in and back to me as an owner. One of the nice things about Evolve is they only charge 10%. Whereas Vacasa charges 20 to 25%. Now, I don't have any experience with Vacasa. I know they're fairly popular. I see their signs in a lot of yards when I'm at my place in Blue Ridge, Georgia, but I don't know what they offer for 25% that Evolve doesn't offer. Now, with Evolve, I did have to communicate with the cleaners. I did have to communicate with the maintenance people, but overall, I found it to be a very viable option for people that don't want to spend 30 to 40% on a property management company, but are willing to do a little work themselves. So when we look at what property management companies do, do, whether it's full service or half service, I think if you are looking to get into that business, my recommendation would be a full service property management company. And here's why. When it comes to organizations like Evolve or Vacasa, they service a very niche industry. They've got systems and processes in place that service properties and homeowners all throughout the United States. And most of the time when somebody is saying, listen, I want to utilize a property management company, those are people who would rather trade time for money. They would rather pay a little bit more in order to be able to have the time and freedom that they want in order to do the things that they want. And so for you, you can serve these individuals that would rather turn it over to you and handle all the problems and just receive a check every single month. And overall, you're going to be taking the challenges and headaches off their plate so they can enjoy the property that they bought and hopefully receive the revenue that they expect from that property. So if you jump into that full service property management when it comes to short-term rentals, here are the things that you are going to be handling for your homeowners. Number one is bookings. When it comes to bookings, that is probably one of the most important things. Understanding which websites and where to post the listing for the home is going to be crucial in order for you to get quite a few bookings, because ultimately somebody's saying this organization, this full service property management company, they definitely have a better reach than I do when it comes to getting this out there and scaling it so I have quite a few visitors, quite a few bookings for my home. You're going to have to be able to do the guest communication. In order to communicate with the guest, that's the last thing that the homeowner wants if they're paying you to do it, is to have any type of communication with the guest. You've got to handle all of that. And obviously all the other stuff like cleaning, right? Home repairs, maintenance. And another crucial piece to it is reviews and feedback. If you've ever gone on Airbnb or Vrbo and looked at places to stay, immediately if something is below even a 4.7, 4.6, chances are most people, we naturally look for those that have a much higher review. Anywhere between 4.8, 4.9, even 5 stars is something that our mind automatically goes to. So now that we understand all that goes into it, let's now talk about what it's going to take to start your short-term rental property management company. And you know, I've actually had a handful of friends that have started from scratch property management companies in the short-term rental market. And it did take quite a bit of work. It definitely wasn't something that was easy, but it's something they built up over time. And now a handful of them have very successful property management companies. But how did they scale their business? How did they get everything in place so they could scale and take on multiple homeowners, multiple homes in order to grow that business? Well, number one, they had their team in place. So what do I mean by that? Well, to become a successful property management company, here is a breakdown of that team that you need in place in order to scale and be successful. Number one, you need a dynamic cleaning crew or cleaning company that you can rely on that might even do things out of the ordinary in order to help your guests have the best experience possible. Because many times in the short-term rental market, there's a lot of same-day turnover. So you have a guest checking out at 10 a.m. and another guest coming in at 4 p.m. and that's a very short window in order to get things perfect and looking nice, because when somebody shows up to a home and what they see when they very first open that door, it's going to have a huge impression for the rest of their stay. You know, one quick story, and it actually happened to us, and I was really glad it was us, but my family and I were staying at our cabin in Blue Ridge, and we got there a little bit later on in the afternoon, around 5, 6 o'clock, and I remember we showed up there, and the cleaners had forgot that we were coming. Not a big deal. I think if it was a normal guest, they would have remembered, but somebody had had a party there the night before, and I remember looking in the bathtub, and maybe somebody had gotten sick, they'd thrown up, the hot tub wasn't well maintained, and I remember thinking to myself, if I were a guest showing up, this would probably be a really bad experience to where I wouldn't want to stay there, and I would definitely be leaving a bad review. Now, we had a good relationship with our cleaners, and even though we're there, we helped them clean. They showed up just like that and started cleaning the place and doing the cleaning in some of the worst possible parts of the home that hadn't been treated very good. Now, another couple things you need in place is a good handyman or contractors in case something goes awry. Same thing as cleaners. If somebody's staying in your home and something starts to not work, whether it's air conditioning, a furnace, the hot tub, last thing they want to do is stay the rest of their time at your place and not have that fixed. Now, there are going to be times where that happens. You just can't control it. And what we've done as a self-manager that you might want to consider as a full-service property manager is offer some sort of discount if they are inconvenienced by something that doesn't work. Obviously, you need a good maintenance crew. We have a short-term rental property up close to Yellowstone, and it snows like crazy up there. So one thing we need is somebody that can go up and remove the snow anytime that it snows. Now, a good maintenance crew, whether it's the lawn, whether it's sprinklers, snow removal, all that is important to make sure that you have everything in place when you're starting your short-term rental property management company. And I think it goes without saying, you also need to understand how and where to place the property so it can be advertised in multiple sites, so multiple different eyes can see it, so it can be booked as many times as possible. And I think along with that, it's really important to have at least some base of understanding understanding, or even pay somebody to do some copywriting. Because when you're reading some of those descriptions on Airbnb or Vrbo, and you've probably seen them before, the ones that really stand out are the ones that are very descriptive and really catch your attention. So a good copywriter, or you having a good understanding of what copywriting can do and how it can catch people's attention, is also very important. And last but not least is you need a good photographer. Pictures are probably one of the most important things when it comes to advertising a site on Airbnb or Vrbo. And having that type of photography that really attracts somebody's attention is crucial for them to make the decision to stay there. And last but not least is somebody who can communicate with the guest. Now that's going to be really important, right? Because if a guest has an issue or a question, they want that to be answered right away. They want somebody to be able to communicate with them. Now these are things that I've seen that have worked really well when it comes to short-term rental property management, and things that I've seen my friends do that have started organizations like this. But I'd be interested in what you've seen or feedback that you have. So please comment below. Let's engage in a dialogue. And as always, I've got a free gift for you. It's my short-term rental calculator. Just go ahead and click on the link below, aaron'sfreetraining.com. You put in all of your numbers when it comes to how much a property costs, all the expenses, and it's going to spit out to you whether it's a good deal or not. And it's 100% free of charge, no obligation. Once again, thanks for stopping by. Have an amazing day.